Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm going to be going over Cerence stock once again. The first video I made was probably close to 2 months ago now. I have been a Cerence investor for a while now. On the portfolio that I review on this channel, I just recently bought it, but I've been in the company for a long time now. I've been following it since probably a year and a half ago, but I was right. Everybody else was wrong. And that is what this video is about. So I'm going to go over everything with Cerence's stock, kind of just renew my original analysis, and basically just gloat and say that I was right. So that's about it. Subscribe because I am amazing. And yeah, that's it. Let's get into it. So before this video starts, I actually forgot to go into my actual portfolio and show my own Cerence position. So I bought 70 shares, roughly a little bit below $3 a share. And here's where we're at right now. If it wants to focus on my screen, which it will be backwards, but y'all can just struggle with that. And there we go. 118% today. I put in roughly $200 into this. I think a little over 200, and it's worth just over 1,000 right now. So it was a win for me. Actually, it's worth 1,200 now. Literally, maybe an hour ago, it was worth 1,000. So once again, um, yeah. So anyway, back to the video. So, looking into Cerence, first of all, they are obviously AI basically for cars specifically. They do have other things like professional services, but they're mainly developing AI for cars. Market cap shows here at 340 million. However, I believe this is closer to 7 or 800 million now just because of the way the stock is moving today. Um, Honestly, other than that, target price is at 720, which a few months ago it was at like 4. Long-term growth rate is 10%. Going into the growth summary, we could see it's a little shaky here, but honestly, I think what's happening here is this has not been updated recently. And one thing that it will show is their last earnings report was really solid and they increased guidance over the past quarter. So I think this will be updated fairly soon. But anyway, let's just get into some of their recent data. So I'm going to be doing all quarters for this one because their quarter over quarter growth was really solid. So their sales were down. However, what they did do was, first of all, I'm not seeing it to be honest, but net income loss massively improved. And really, what I want to look at here is their recent earnings reports. So I'm not even going to go through their statements that much because I don't even care. I don't care. One thing I will say, intangible assets is on the decline. However, it actually just ticked up for the first quarter in a while, last quarter, which is good. Total assets are sitting at 700 million, which is probably right in line with their market cap now. So that is a little bit better. But when I first found this company, it was a $100 million company that had well over $1 billion in assets. Now they have been really working towards decreasing those assets that they do not need and reinvesting them in making the company better long term. So basically, I'm just a big fan. They do have a decent amount of debt. They have 127 million in cash. They have 92 million in short term, 200 million long term. So that is fairly significant. However, one thing to note, their debt has come down a lot recently. They were all the way up at like 285, 286 million. So they have been working on it, which is not something that every company can say. Definitely improving, at least in my opinion. Next up, cash flows. So, first of all, operating cash flow has been positive for the last 3 quarters. Now, this was actually not entirely from funds from operations. Like the last quarter, it was mostly because of their changes in their working capital. But again, that's also just like receivables, which is money they'll be receiving. So, no big deal there. So, Operating cash flow positive last 3 quarters. Investing cash flow, they have been selling off a lot of investments, as we saw earlier, with their assets declining a lot. However, that is slowing down. I think we'll see some solid asset growth coming within the next few quarters. And other than that, we could see a fairly large change in capital stock. I believe they sold a decent amount. But what I'm going to say about that here is they clearly reduced other things with it, specifically probably their debt, as we saw earlier. But overall, I think this is a good thing. I think they need more money, and this is where they're going to get it from. So no big deal. Actually, if we do go back to the income statement really quick, we can look at the total shares, which have barely changed at all. Actually, we're still at 41 million, and we've basically been there for the past 2 years, adding 2 million more shares. That's not a crazy amount considering how small the company is, or I guess was. Now it's probably closing in on $1 billion valuation. Looking at their segment history, we kind of visualize this a little bit more. They peaked in 2021, and since then they were declining. I strongly believe that we will see much, much higher earnings than what 2021 was in the next 2 years. Much higher. Most of that income was also from licensing, which they are sort of moving away from and going more towards connected services, which I think is a better idea. There's most likely, I feel like licensing is a fixed amount of income. Like, as you could see, 2016 they made 130 million and made 125 million in 2024. Meanwhile, their connected services segment has grown from 30 million to 130 million. So overall, I think there is a lot. It's much, much better for them to focus on their connected services and make that more profitable. Going into their ratios, I believe this is one of the key points that I want to point out. First of all, gross margin increasing, SGA to sales decreasing, net margin looks pretty rough, but I'm sure there's something in the quarters that'll explain that a little bit better. Another thing, long-term debt to total equity is up. However, that's mostly because of a reduction in equity, not so much an increased amount of debt. But we will go into the quarters here and try to get a little bit more information. So first of all, again, gross margin is staying steady. It actually declined over the past quarter, but that's mostly no big deal. SGA to sales increased slightly. Net margin is at negative 177. So actually increasingly negative. However, one thing we have to point out is that I think that they are reinvesting a ton into reforming the company, molding it around this new AI boom that's been happening. I think that that is what will happen here. ROE, ROA are both very, very negative. Honestly, expecting big changes very soon, especially considering how high their stock price is now. When I started making this video, their stock price was at $16. Now it's almost at 18. When I woke up this morning, it was at like 11 or 12. So very cool. Great day for me, honestly. I'll show my position in the stock later. I am very publicly invested in this company. So consider the bias because I have been with them for a long time. But overall, I just like everything. I like it. I think they're bringing a lot of stuff around. I think there's a lot of um, promise for the company. And yeah, so going into their recent earnings, I believe one thing that did happen, which possibly, let's look at this first with their press releases. I believe they may have announced a partnership with Nvidia. Now, apparently there's nothing to be found here. So uh, I have known about this partnership for a while. I went over it in my first video. I talked about it. I'm pretty sure I went over it in one of my portfolio reviews as well. But they have had a partnership with Nvidia publicly for probably close to a year now. Like it wasn't a secret thing. It wasn't like, oh, it just came out, big thing, partnership with Nvidia. It's been known for a while now, and I feel like a lot of people just didn't pay attention to it. So that's just something, I believe that's why the stock is boosting so much today, which if we look here, we can see it. Massive, enormous explosion. Apparently they reached $20 at one point today. I did not see that, but apparently they did. I'm sure it was probably very recently. Yeah, it was about an hour ago they reached $20 a share. Amazing, honestly. a lot more than I could have ever imagined. If you are watching here from StockTwits, I made a StockTwits post saying that they would hit $10 by the end of the year. And obviously, that post was wrong. It took 3 extra days for them to hit over $10. But I was right. I'm gonna say it. I was right. The proof is there. I've been saying it for a while. The review I did 2 months ago when the stock price was probably right around $4 a share or whatever. Actually, probably not. It was probably right around this area when I reviewed it. May have bought it in October actually. So yeah, the review from 3 months ago when I was like, "Hey, I'm in this company. It looks fantastic. A lot of potential." I think like 10 people viewed it in the first like couple days, but now everybody knows. So that's all I got for now. Definitely pay attention to Cerence because honestly, they have a lot of room. Now, don't get me wrong, or actually, hold on. Let me say this. At this peak here, when they were well over $100 a share, trading at multiples that were literally impossible. I don't know how it ever got that high to begin with. But when they were here, they were making less money and they did not have the partnerships that they have now. And people had them at over $100 a share valuation. That's all I'm going to say. But just some thought. Also, I believe the ceiling here could be as high as $20 to $25, just based on where this channel that they've been in is looking. Now, they could break out of this. I think they will break out of it just based on what has been happening. I think there will be a breakout, but overall, that's all I got now. Now I'm done. So definitely check out the stock. It's probably I don't want to say it's overvalued, but there will be a return to probably a significantly lower range than it is now. Now, I think $8 to $10 could be a solid support now. I think it will hold that. But honestly, if you're in above that, I would be a little wary. However, again, I think it will be returning to right around 20 to 25 just to hit the top of this channel. But short to mid term, I think it will go a little bit lower as it just needs to gather support. So definitely watch out for that. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got in when it was happening, before it was happening. Congratulations if anybody did. But yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for watching.